right. Good evening again. You have the pleasure of listening to me one more time. Hopefully that last one wasn't too painful for you and you stick around for this next one. So I am going to start the third and final presentation. My name again is Tracy Lauritzen. And by the way, I did leave some business cards around. Krakerjak, yeah. So feel free to, throw them in the garbage on your way out. All right, so just kidding. All right, so in this segment, I just fell asleep. Hold on, stay tuned. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Okay, whew, that was quick. Gotta love that Touch ID. Okay, for real though, skipping rope. All right, in this third and final segment, we're going to talk about analyzing metrics and identifying your target markets. And so I'm going to send you on a little bit of a journey, and hopefully when we get to the end, you'll see how this all wraps up into a bow. But all right, so let's get started. I'm not going to introduce myself because I think y'all know from just a moment ago, but if you don't remember who I am, just yell. And this is my business. So. All right, and sorry I put that in there because I didn't know what order we're going in or anything like that, so keep my intro in there. Okay, so let's get started with this fun stuff. So analyzing metrics. Who's already snoring? Okay. Whew. Okay, well, all right, I'm going to try not to lose you here. All right, so believe it or not, you probably, if you're doing anything digitally, you have access to data. And so there's just so many different components of where to get this information. I mean, I just showed you on Google Business, right? I know we didn't get into it, but there's an analyze button over there. So there's tons of ways that you can capture or understand your customers' data. And so the flaw, though, is people are like, yeah, but I don't know what that means. I don't know what to do with it. I don't have time for it, et cetera, et cetera. But really, I have this whole, data is a stage, but really the goal is to humanize the data. And I know that sounds stupid and really simple, but that's really what this is all about. The data are actual people. So if you just think about that and keep that in mind, it's not necessarily, the stats are really fun and exciting, but if you completely think about that stat as a human, you'll get a lot further in this journey of how to get more of those humans. Is that fair? Kind of think about it that way a little bit? I know, I'm a data analytics person and I'm telling you to humanize the data. Crazy. Yep, that's me. Okay, so this is a typical website, right? And I'm going to start with the monster, and that monster is Google Analytics. And why I say that Google Analytics is a monster, so if anyone's not familiar with Google Analytics, it is a way to get data based off of your actual website users. So there's just a little tag that we attach to it. I won't get into that, how you do it today. It's a whole nother segment that we do. But any of whoever handles your web development can do this for you. And just remember, Google Analytics is free. So if anyone tries to charge you for Google Analytics, I would call their bluff because it is free. They might charge you to implement it, but do not let them charge you to use it, okay? All right, so Google Analytics, seriously, it's the monster. Over 29 million websites have Google Analytics installed. And there's a whole bunch of different segments within it. And for time today, I'm going to focus on two areas, demographics and interests. And I think interests are like the most exciting for me. And again, I'll show you kind of how this wraps up into a bow all at the end. So hang with me on this one. All right, so Google Analytics. So inside Google Analytics, those two segments that I talked about, they're going to be in your audience section. So these are the different areas in which, when you get into Google Analytics, that you can choose, home, I want to look at who's looking at my website in real time, blah, 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 blah. But we're going to focus in the audience section for today's purposes. So within the audience section, we also have all of these different things that we can look at within the audience. And I'm going to show you demographics today and interests today. And you'll see why in just a sec. So demographics, you're like, yep, I got it. Basic information, right? How many of my website users, so people that have been on my website, are woman versus male. Okay, this is great information to know. And then of that, what are their age categories? And you're like, yeah, that's super basic information, Trace. I could tell you that because I see the 10 people that walk through my door every day. I get that. But we're going to take this a little bit deeper because we want to know precisely who these people are from a data analytics standpoint so that we can target more of them. If they're on your website, they're actively on your website for a reason, and most likely we want more of them, right? Does that make sense? So we want to know this from a data standpoint, not from who's walking in the door standpoint. And again, I'll get to what this means in a little bit here. And then the next section, or before we get into the next section of interest, I just want to remind everyone again that Google Analytics is also tied directly to Google Ads. So if you understand your Google Analytics, you can swiftly make ad purchases based off of the same criteria. And so it's just a really easy way to think about this. And I'll show you what that means here in just a second. But I just want you to transition that, not just from a user perspective, but how do I get some paid information out there too. So we talked about organic, but we'll talk about some paid stuff here too. All right, so we talked about demographics. The interests are very exciting to me. There's 3 different categories within interests. There's the first one that's called, Google makes weird names, the affinity category. We're going to know in a minute. The in-market segment, and then the other category. And so what does that mean directly? So when you're in here and you're looking at your website users, we're going to look at what else they do on Google. And this is where that information is going to come from. And you're like, who cares? Let me tell you why you care. All right, because this is how we target them. So if you think about, does anyone know what a sales funnel is, right? Oh my gosh, I got glaring eyes right now. Sales funnel. So, right, so just think of a funnel, right? Big at the top, small at the bottom. Big is you want to stretch out as far as you can and tell everyone that you're available and that you're open, right? So that's the top of the sales funnel. You want as many people to see you as possible. But what you really want is them to get down to the purchase part of the funnel. That's where you care the most, okay? So this is how that relates into that. If you think about these 3 as sales funnels, this is your first one, reach. So the affinity category is your reach, the top of the sales funnel. So this is what your website users are doing across the web, okay? They are mostly interested in food and dining. They're outdoor enthusiasts. They care about investments. They care about home and garden, lifestyles, all of these different categories. So if I am in marketing and I would like to reach more people from a broad perspective, I want more people to know that I am in business, I would want to consider advertising in categories that I know my website users are interested in. Does this make sense? Right, it's pretty simple. Humanize them. So these are the humans, these are other things that they're doing. So that's the broad reach. Lots of eyeballs are going here. The next category is the consideration phase, I call that anyway, and that's the in-market segment. This is where they're getting down to that buyer's journey, that buyer's funnel, to say, you know, I'm actually really interested in doing a search for something specific. Okay, so this is where they're in that I'm considering to make a buy moment. So for this example here, this in-segment customer could probably be an insurance company. See how I got you there? Yeah, all right, because they're interested in automobiles, they're interested in real estate, used vehicles, travel, so maybe they're moving, right? So these would be, right? Does this make sense? This would be an insurance, potentially. It could also be a financial institution, a bank, giving out loans for automobiles or real estate, right? So I won't tell you the type of business this is, it's a real business. But this makes sense, right? They're doing these types of searches that are in that funnel phase. They're ready to make a purchase. And so you want to be active when they're making these searches. So think about this. If you want that funnel, right, and you know that they're searching for a new home, real estate purchase, you probably want to serve up some insurance ads to them that say that you have homeowners insurance. You guys are good after a couple of drinks in the third round here. Woo! So proud of you. All right, I haven't lost yet. It's awesome. All right. So, and then this last segment is where they're spending a majority of their time. So here in this category, they're spending, again, searching through the web. This is where they're not just like broadly out there. This is where they spend a majority of their time. So again, think about what that ad might be that you want to serve up to them in these categories. So this particular one is news and weather, sports, entertainment, sports teams, specifically American football. Okay, so if this was your other category, interested web users, right, maybe you want to consider making purchases in the NFL, right? Football league of sort. They also said that they're into TV and video and online. So just again, think about that. This really helps, so you're not just spreading out like, where should I spend my marketing dollars? This is really telling you who your website customers are and where, if you want more of them because they're good customers of yours, this is where you may find them because they're similar, right? Does that make sense in that sales funnel? Okay, good. All right. So moving on, so that's Google Analytics, and again, there's a whole lot more involved in it. I'm just giving you some little snippets here. But before I forget, if you do have Google Analytics installed, I just want everyone to know that there's a major update happening to Google Analytics 4. It's called GA4. It'll take effect June 1st. But if you haven't migrated that from your current Google Analytics standpoint, you want to get that migrated as soon as possible. Otherwise, Google will make the migration for you, but they'll do it based off of their criteria, and some things might not work out real well. So I would encourage you to go in and get that updated to GA4. It's pretty simple to do, but anyway, I didn't put that in here just because it's so time sensitive and whatnot. But yeah, GA4, you want to make sure you get that updated too. All right, moving on. Social media metrics also has lots of data in it, right? And I won't go into all the nitty-gritty, of course, but I'm just trying to give you some highlights. So you can see what your current audience is. So if you have Facebook followers, Instagram, by the way, is the exact same thing because they're the same, meta, business, intertwined. So if you only have Instagram, it will look exactly like this, same information. But for the sake of time, I didn't put it in. So again, you can see basic information, the metrics between, male and female, their age groups, and the highest level of those age groups. So, in this specific category here, their highest Facebook users or followers, are women between the ages of 35 to 44-year-olds, okay? So again, if I want to target and hyper-target and spend less dollars hyper-targeting, I'm going to go after the areas that most of my users or my followers are currently in, if that makes sense, right? Doesn't mean you don't care about the rest, but if you're, you want to spend your dollars wisely, I would go after that market first, okay? And then you can also see from this current information where the top cities that those followers, are in. So if you have multiple locations, that's, kind of nice to see, are the majority of them from this town or that town? Maybe I want to get more from that town because, whatever. So you can take a look at that here as well. LinkedIn is a little bit different, and I put this in here because I know that there's probably a lot of B2B people here, and LinkedIn really is focused more on the career side of social media. It doesn't mean it's not a valid social media, it's used differently, and so the metrics as well are different, and so I just want to show you a couple of things and what that means here. So instead of, how you saw the audience profiles on the other channels, Google Analytics and Facebook there, this is different. You can search by job function, company size, industry, locations, what the person's seniority is within the organization. And then within those as well, you can take a deeper dive. So specifically, as an example, in job function, I can see the type. So these are my followers on LinkedIn. They're mostly in the operations category of business, and then business development, sales, etc. So if I want more of them, I can hyper-target businesses, or individuals that say they're in the operations portion. That's a part of their title of their work. So a different way to think about this as well. And so just another example of followers, we can look at that in those same segments, but also by location. So where are my followers mostly located, or they say that they're mostly located in. So again, able to hyper-target that way. YouTube, I put in here because it is, I'm not sure who all has YouTube channels, but again, Google likes Google stuff, and if you didn't know that Google owns YouTube, so have a channel if you have any videos. But there's a lot of cool things actually in Google YouTube Analytics that I think are super powerful, and I'll show you some of the things. But you do also get basic information like, how many how many viewers, they call them, right, in YouTube, how many viewers were on your channel, how long they watched, how many hours of video they watched, how many new subscribers you've received over a certain period of time. You can see if they got to your YouTube page from an external link, so maybe they got there from Facebook post or your website or something like that. That would be that external one. The YouTube search, so they searched for something and happened to find your video, so it's always good to know there. And then over there, the top videos that were actually viewed on your channel are listed there. This is, I think, YouTube does kind of a cool job. So they actually look at this like a sales funnel, if you're close enough to be able to see that slide down here. So they're saying, from a sales funnel standpoint, this page got 28,000 impressions, so eyeballs viewing, and then 1.4 thousand actual views, and then that translated to 58 minutes of viewing time on their channel during that duration that we chose. And then you can see if they're, returning visitors to your channel or new visitors to your channel. You can see if they are subscribers or not subscribed. So if this was my client, I'd strongly encourage them to do some work on getting people to subscribe to their channel. There's some different tricks to do that, but anyway. Noting for self. And then you can, again, see that geography, like where are they from? When I view it. So all three of those channels, I just want to show you that, are very different, right, in the type of metrics that they show and how they show that. And so humanizing any of those to think about how I can get more of them, whatever channel you're using to get more of them, those are different ways to kind of think about that. If you don't have any of those metrics and you're like, I don't know, that's just overwhelming for me, I have no idea, go ahead and use your personas. And if you don't have a persona created, were you guys in the persona one? You haven't been to the persona one, sorry. It's a good one. You need to create a persona, and we can do that with a lot of different ways to do that. I have some toolkits that we can help you with to get to those personas, but essentially you want to do the same thing. But think about this, all of you have vastly different customers, right? So not one of you people probably have the same type of customer that cares about the same things. And so really humanizing them to get to that tight moment of being able to advertise to them goes way beyond the basics of gender and age. You want to get to that third criteria, right, of Google Analytics that I shared with you, that are those additional aspects. What are their hobbies and interests? What are their ideals and values? What are their lifestyles like? Where do they spend their time and energy? That's the money part. That's where you're going to get the most advantage out of spending the least amount of dollars to really hyper target those people. Does that make sense? You guys are getting quiet on me. All right. All right, so I just threw a couple of quick slides in here on identifying your social markets, because I get asked, what channel should I be on? Does it matter? Blah, 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 blah. So here's just some really quick metrics, and this does not mean do these metrics because they're heavy hitters. So just super quick, YouTube is the #1 used social media channel by US adults on a monthly basis, okay? So it's really powerful. It's actually the second largest search engine after Google, believe it or not. So super, super high usability into that channel. This is sheer users, so the actual monthly users in different social media channels. And I just want you to see, if you can tell the darker red to the lighter red over here, this whole darker red side is in billions with a B, monthly. So yes, Facebook is still, almost 3 billion monthly active users, okay? I know, it's a giant. And then this is just a quick breakdown on the different demographics from monthly usability search. So, Facebook's kind of, has like the, very similar, it's not super high up and down. Instagram, you can see, has a couple of spikes there with those younger demographics, the 18 to 34-year-olds. LinkedIn monitors theirs a little bit differently, so it's a little wonky. So that giant spike over there is really 35 to 54-year-olds combined. They do their metrics a little bit differently. So again, it doesn't mean if you're a 44-year-old and you want more 44-year-olds, you should drop everything and jump on LinkedIn. So don't think about it that way. I just want you to see, what the true metrics are, so you can think about who those customers are and maybe consider, adding another channel or dropping a channel. By the way, you don't have to be on everything. Just be on the ones that really matter to your personas. So this is just a real quick visual of some of that information to kind of think about. So if your target market is an adult woman, this is where she spends her time in social media. 81% of adult women are on YouTube, 69% on Facebook, 40% on Instagram, and 28% of them are on LinkedIn. Does that make sense? And then in comparison, if your target market is a young lady under 24 years old, 18 to 24 years old, 76% of them are on Instagram, 75% of them are on Snapchat, and 55% of them are on TikTok. So visually, you can see how these are much different individuals and maybe how you would target them. If that makes sense. All right, so bringing this kind of around to targeting them. So now I know all this information, like, what do I do with it? How do I make this work for me? So you can do a couple of different things. Let's say Facebook is an area that you want to go to and find out if there's more potential audience for what you're looking for. You can go to Facebook or Instagram, again, exact same thing, and you can do a filter. So you can say, okay, I want to know. Remember Google Analytics a little bit ago? The demographic was like, 35 to 44-year-olds in Rochester, and they liked local news, right? So I know that's my users on my channel on my website. So I wonder if I can get more of them to start to follow me on Facebook, so I can serve ads up to them, right? So you can add these filters in here and say, is there more of them? Or how many more of them? Do I care? Is there enough audience for me? So I just did a quick search here on a real customer and put in a location of Rochester, Minnesota. I put in that age group, 35 to 45, and that their interests are in local news. Like, wonder how many people there are for me to serve up ads to. And the results are there's between 12,000 and 14,000 active Facebook users within that criteria that I could create campaigns to. So does this help kind of bring all that data full circle and how you could use that later? And then this tells me that demographic breakdown. So out of those 12,000, 14,000, there's most of them are, the gender ages are here, so women versus men. It's not too far off, but that's the demographic breakdown of those. So if I wanted to filter out just that 45 to 54, I could filter that out and make that just this demographic here if I wanted to. But then you can do, taking that one more step further, I can also see out of that 12,000 people, what other pages they follow, the top pages that they follow. So in this true customer, all of those people, the top page that they followed was KTTC News. So if I knew that, maybe this is an area that I would want to consider from a marketing standpoint or advertising standpoint. Does that help at all? Okay, great. All right, go ahead.
And
yeah.
that's found right in Facebook? Mm-hmm.
This is in Facebook. Yep. In the
is that in Meta?
In Meta. Yep. In the analytics section. Yep. And then you can, if you wanted, then right from there, just that search that you just did, you can start to create audiences from there and start serving them ads. So that one that I just did would have been, create a saved audience. I would have saved that and been able to do ads to them. But you can create lookalike audiences as well. Okay, here's my Facebook page. I want more of them. Just figure it out, right? Or you can create custom audiences in a variety of different ways. So yeah.
They always ask you if you want boost.
Yeah, that's different.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Okay. Boosting a post is different than serving up ads.
Boost it to a certain audience.
No, so a boosted ad is like you created an ad on your feed and then you can boost it, yes, to an audience. I mean, you put criteria into it, but this is different. You would create a specific ad to serve just to this market, not something in your feed. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And then LinkedIn, again, I just want to show you a couple different ways to do this, bringing everything around full circle. So again, LinkedIn is a little bit different type of audience, but you can do the same metrics or the same type of concept. So over there to the right, you can upload a list. So if you have a business list that you want to serve ads to, you can import that into here. And then if their information matches a profile, they'll get served up those ads. You can do retargeting, and then you can create as well lookalikes from that. So different ways that you can target these audiences that you might be beneficial for you. And then YouTube, there's so much analytics within YouTube, I think is just so powerful. And a couple of areas that I wanted to share with you to get, again, some more hyper-targeting is in the audience section, so kind of further down into the metrics of those. You can see when the time frame in which your viewers are on YouTube, so that helps you decide when you should be, posting a new video or doing things like that. Super helpful. Other channels that your audience watches, so you can kind of get a feel for their lifestyle and things that they're interested in, or maybe it's competitors and you can see what they're doing that you can do better. Not the same, always better, right? Yeah, we never do anything that our competitor does. We always do it better. Other videos that your audience may have watched, that might help you get some creative ideas, right? And then some basic demographic information. What I think is really cool is in the search function of YouTube. So you can say, what were the search terms that someone used to find my channel or my video? And I think that's really powerful to think about, because then you can use, that would be a great way to think about your keywords and making sure, if I go back to my last presentation in Google, I want to make sure if people are searching this term, I want to make sure that that's in my profile somewhere so that I become more and more and more searchable because they got to my channel, so this must be something interesting to them. What also I think is super powerful is you can type in specific keywords or key terms and say, economic development, is that a highly popular key term that's searchable for people to find channels? And it will come up with a report that says, well, actually, economic growth and development is the highest in relation to that. But economic development is there, and it's categorized as medium. So I might change my search term or my keyword terms, right, to include some of this content information. So it's just knowledge for you to use. Hopefully this is helpful for you in figuring out ways to kind of bring this around full circle and utilize some of this data that's at your fingertips, hopefully very easily, and not get too deep in the weeds on you. And that's really all I had. I know there's a whole lot more I could have dived into with that segment, but I just wanted to make sure everyone understood how to read metrics and then how to utilize them when it got to the end. So, any questions? Everyone okay? I didn't lose you totally? You're just ready to go get another drink? Okay, perfect. I'm off duty, and Allison has some closing words.